After unwrapping, it's time to paint the binoculars. The general but unofficial rule here is to start with the base, so basic colors, and then add details. And I think that it'll be the best, so we'll create base material for metal, wood, leather, and glass. In the next videos, we'll focus on details. And one more note, I'm sure there will be a lot of going back, correcting something I don't like, so don't treat this lesson as you need to follow my every stroke exactly. But this is how the process looked like, and don't be afraid of making mistakes and going back and painting something more than once. I think it's about enjoying the process and not stressing about having perfect strokes every time. My hand stylized painting skills are not world class definitely, as I prefer creating realistic textures, but here we go, let's paint these. We'll start with selecting a nice environment to work with in material shading mode. Current one is a little too contrasted and tinted, so I will go with this one. It's bright, but it lights everything nicely. For the shading view, where we'll be painting most of the time probably, I will choose this brightest lighting. You can see that the grid on the left and the same texture on the binoculars look similar, so it would work nicely. We will definitely need a shader editor, so let's add it now. For now, we only have a grid texture, so let's create a base color. The defaults are okay, so let's add it. And now we need to plug it instead of the grid texture. And we can paint. Everything is working. I will start with creating color palettes, and metal will be the first. I created some palettes using Paleton.com, and now we'll use Mesh Plane with the swatches I exported to PNGs. And I will rescale it because it's definitely too big. First, I am adding the main color and the rest, and then I am choosing the main one again, and I'm using it on the metal parts. Now the same with the wood. Rescaling, sampling the main color, the rest, and filling the wooden parts with the main color. Next up, leather color swatches. I forgot about the buckle, so let's use the metal swatch on it. And lastly, glass color swatches. Everything looks fine now. Thanks to the palettes, it will be easier to choose the colors for highlights and darker areas. Now I will hide the swatches because we don't need them anymore. For painting the base colors, I will use solid shading view because it better shows the real colors we'll be painting with. If everything is set, we can start adding some highlights to the metal parts. This process will be time consuming, and for most of the time I'll be sampling colors from palettes and painting the highlights and the darker areas. And what do you want to create depends on your imagination only. I am using my Wacom tablet, and it's definitely easier to paint with a pen. I accidentally added more colors to the palette because I was tapping my pen on my tablet using Ctrl X, so I will quickly delete all the unnecessary swatches. I will select the swatch and then press minus icon. And we're left with the default colors. Darkening some areas to add some dimension, but not too much as it has to be a stylized model. As you can see, there are some harsh transitions and blurring them out is not helping. I will paint with the red color to see where the problematic UV is. And we'll also change the bleed now to 4 pixels. We don't have any diagonal islands and the irregular ones are far away from other ones, so I think we'll be good. I decided to overpaint it later because it is the circle part and we just need to add some colors there. Now the back of the front metal element. I am not focusing at one area and color at the time, that's why I'm sometimes jumping from the back to the front of the element. Thanks to the palette, we can sample these 4 colors, but by sampling colors from the model, we have unlimited amount of colors to blend. My plan for these binoculars is to have soft highlights at the top and a little bit of the shadow at the bottom. It's not really light painting, but it will add some dimension to the model. Time to save the texture, and I will jump to the wood now because rest of the metal elements were painted exactly the same. So to not waste your time, let's paint the wood now. For the wood, I also have the palette, so I'm painting lighter areas at the top and darker at the bottom. Nothing extremely detailed, but I want to add some contouring. Sometimes we can have a situation that the stroke went through the edge and we can easily repair it with a smudge tool. And I'm having a lot of these situations. Now painting the bottom, so I'm using darker colors. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it looks even better when it's a bit messy. We will paint details later anyways. And now the darker parts of the back wooden element. This process is very repetitive and nothing exciting is happening. Now I'm painting a little bit of darker areas inside to have an illusion of the shadow. Here I need to cover this part because it was painted from the other side and it definitely doesn't match the rest. Isolation mode helps a lot too. After painting some lighter and darker colors, it's definitely easier to tell where to place which color. Here I will also add some darker browns to the both sides of the front element. Next to that, we'll have a nice gradient where it meets the steel part. And more blurring and smudging the texture to have a smooth transition. And the same with the front. Painting darker browns, but this time I will use the line stroke. Straight and UV islands definitely help with painting straight lines. After painting the lines, I'm smudging the texture again. I'm pushing the darker color a bit towards the metal part because it was too visible. Let's check, and I switched to another wooden part, but the process is exactly the same, so let's jump into texturing the belt now. I decided to add some brighter colors to the center of the belt, and I'm using both the 2D view as well as 3D view. Some things are easier to paint in 2D, especially straight lines, and some are easier to paint in 3D. Adding colors roughly. And here you can see that the color went through the edge and I need to smooth this area. And sometimes it's difficult because it's one object, so for now I'll just blend it a bit. And now, after painting in 2D space, I could easily blend these colors together and we don't see any sharp lines anymore. Even more touch-ups, and using Ctrl Z a lot. Now I'm selecting the brightest color and the line stroke, and I will paint the edges of the leather to make them brighter, like it was just cut. And again, thanks to the straightened UVs, it's simple. Imagine not doing that. Painting that by hand would be very time consuming. Now I'm adding darker colors too. I will mix them later when painting the details. For now, just a little bit of blending. For some areas, I will also add brighter colors in the middle and blend it with darker elements. I am also smoothing some of the edges because they look too sharp or weren't painted enough. I'm not really paying that much attention to the bottom of the belt as it won't be visible, and it's better to focus on something what you can actually see. Here I also saw that after painting on the 2D space we have a really visible seam here, so I need to blend the colors, but even if I'm trying not to cross the edge, I still need to correct the paint on the other faces. I'm sampling the colors from the already existing ones and blending the top part of the belt. It's a long element, so we need to go all the way to the other side. Try not to forget anything. I think these imperfections look fine. I will just add a little bit of the brighter color again and blend the side of the belt. This element is extremely thin, so almost every stroke causes these edge areas to bleed with other colors, but actually I don't really mind it. It doesn't look that bad. Last touch-ups. There was a lot of blending colors together. Everything starts to look nice, but now let's add some more colors to the glass elements. I am selecting the proper palette and just adding some highlights and darker areas where it's hidden inside the binoculars. I will probably add some transmission to it later or with shaders before baking. Now let's focus on the color only. And the back elements, repeating the same process, so a little bit of lighter colors, a little bit of darker colors. And blending them together. Sometimes after blending, I'm using more color to make it more visible with the nice blended colors below. And you probably guessed it, never too much touch-ups. Single stroke might not give an effect, but with using a lot of them, it allows to slowly build a color we want. And we're done with base colors. Everything starts to shape up, and in the next video we'll paint some details using different layers. And don't forget to save your texture.